Way up in the Himalayas, I'm talking deep inside, there's this village that plays by a completely different set of rules. Rules that are older than most countries. It's a place that's just shrouded in mystery, run by a god, not a government. Today, we're going to try to unlock the secrets of Malana.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Imagine a community so cut off from the rest of us, the modern laws just don't apply. A place where legends from 2,000 years ago aren't just stories, they're history. Well, that's not some fantasy novel. It's a very real place, and we're about to go there.
So, our journey kicks off in the Parvati Valley of Himachal Pradesh. This is where we're going to see how Malana's incredible isolation created one of the most unique, and I mean truly unique, cultures on the entire planet.
You see, in Malana, the geography really did shape their destiny. For centuries, these massive, steep mountains were like a natural fortress, perfectly preserving everything and everyone inside. That isolation is exactly why they have their own language, Kanashi, which, get this, is spoken absolutely nowhere else on Earth.
And that brings us to this huge mystery about their language. Where did it come from? Is Kanashi some super rare dialect that just evolved from ancient Sanskrit over time? Or, and this is the theory the locals believe, is it a kind of linguistic fossil left behind by European soldiers from a long-forgotten war?
Yeah, that's the story the villagers themselves will tell you. They truly believe their ancestors were soldiers in Alexander the Great's army. We're talking more than 2,000 years ago. The story goes that these soldiers just decided to stay behind in the mountains. And that claim, that belief, it shapes their entire identity and why they see themselves as so separate from the rest of India.
Okay, so if you think their origins are unique, wait till you hear about their system of government. It is on another level. Because in Malana, the ultimate authority isn't a court, or a president, or a parliament, it's a god. Let that sink in for a moment. We are talking about a village, inside the borders of India, that basically operates like its own little sovereign state. It has its own deity as the supreme ruler. For the longest time, even the Indian government was pretty hesitant to interfere with their ancient justice system.
And the central figure in all of this is Jamlu Devta. He's not just a god they worship, he is the law. His will dictates literally everything, from who owns what land to how people should behave. And whatever he decides, well, that's considered infallible.
So, how does a divine court actually work? Well, it's pretty wild. When there's a problem or a fight, the village council takes it to Jamlu Devta. His verdict is then passed down through a chosen oracle, a person who's believed to be a direct channel for the god. And once that divine judgment is delivered, that's it. Case closed. There are no appeals.
Now this deep, deep belief in their own purity and their own system of law leads to one of Malana's most famous and most strictly enforced customs, this absolute taboo against any physical contact with outsiders.
At the very heart of this rule is the belief that anyone from the outside world, like you or me, is ritually impure. We could defile their sacred community. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a core belief of their society that every single visitor has to respect.
And this rule doesn't just apply to people. It extends to the village itself. You see those ancient timber-framed homes and temples? They're also considered sacred, so visitors are warned, pretty seriously, not to touch any of the walls.
But the most critical rule, the absolute #1 thing, is that any physical contact with a villager is completely forbidden. If you buy something from a shop, you put the money on the counter and they put the item down for you to pick up, all to make sure no one ever touches.
So what happens if you break the rule? Well, the consequences are serious. The spot, or the object, or even the person that was touched has to be ritually purified. And this often means sacrificing a goat, which is a huge expense that the visitor is usually expected to pay for. But there is another reason, a much more modern one, that Malana has become famous around the world. It's a secret that has brought both a lot of money and a lot of trouble to this isolated little kingdom.
This is Malana Cream. It's a very specific, very potent type of cannabis resin, hashish, that has become a legend in its own right. Among people who know about these things, its quality is world famous. It's put Malana on a totally different kind of map.
And here you find this fascinating paradox, right? For the people of Malana, growing this plant is a sacred tradition, an art form passed down through generations. It's also their main way of making a living. But to the outside world, and according to Indian law, it's completely illegal.
Which brings us to today. The global fame of Malana Cream, and all the tourism that comes with it, now threatens the very isolation that protected this culture for all those centuries. For hundreds of years, the only way to get to Malana was this grueling, multi-day trek through the mountains. But now, with new roads, the once forbidden village is just a few hours hike away for thousands of tourists a year, and every single one of them brings a little piece of the outside world with them.
So this is the fundamental conflict that Malana is facing right now. On one side, you have the pull of tradition, their cultural purity, their divine law. And on the other, you have the push of modernity, the chance for economic opportunity, access to roads and new technology. And the younger generation? They're caught right in the middle of this battle for Malana's soul.
You know, when you think about it, maybe the biggest mystery isn't their strange language or their ancient laws. Maybe it's just their incredible resilience. How has this tiny kingdom managed to protect its soul for so long from a world that is closing in faster and faster every day?
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. Knowing all the rules and knowing the really delicate balance between being an observer and being an intruder, would you visit a place like Malana? And is it even possible to go there without changing it forever?